Great, cool. Thanks for having me, Janus, and hi everyone. So let's talk a little bit about the recent hype of artificial intelligence, and hopefully in the next couple of minutes, I'll give you an idea how it'll transform specifically internal communications, and I'm give you a quick overview about who we are, etc., and why this even matters to us, and also about me. This is not only going to be slides, I'm also happy to show you something live. So how we as an employee communications provider have implemented ChatGPT recently into our platform and made this available to our clients. But yeah, happy to then take your questions either right away or at the end of the session.
Perfect.
Just a quick words about me. So I've spent roughly 10 years in SaaS marketing and comms. I studied politics back then, but then once I had my first stint in software and marketing, decided that this is way more interesting than politics, so I stick with it. Started off as a consultant and then joined SaaS providers, and now I'm basically now combining what I did in marketing and sales and comms in my role as head of product marketing. So with product marketing, I'm allowed to head a team here at Haiilo, and we're responsible for our overall positioning, messaging, competitive differentiation, etc., etc. And this is what I do. Just maybe 2 sentences about who Haiilo is. So as I said, we're an employee communications provider. So we have a software we offer as a software as a service. And we're here for quite some time. The company has been founded 12 years ago, 2010, and is being used by more than 1,000 clients nowadays globally. Not only those flagship logos that you can see down there that we're super proud of, but pretty much all size of companies and all verticals are using our platform. That then adds up to roughly 3.5 million users using the Haiilo platform every day to do employee communications, right? So all sorts of internal, top-down or bottom-up communication, but also typical intranet use cases, events, etc., etc. And yeah, Haiilo as a company has around 300 employees. So to the topic now, and AI will come into play in a sec. One thing to give you background there, why AI is even important for internal communications is, first of all, we think that internal communications is already in a transforming stage because it has become so much more complex to reach employees and to have a company and to reach employees in the hybrid setup that every company basically nowadays is in. And it is not being solved by just introducing an employee app or by just introducing a fancy new platform. So it is much more. And the term that we use a lot is multi-channel. So internal communications, from our point of view, needs to have a multi-channel strategy, and it needs to follow a multi-channel approach, because as you know, there's those kind of employees that live in their email inboxes. Then there's those kind of employees that are in Microsoft Teams all day long. They don't go to a place called intranet, etc. And probably many different kinds of employees on top of that, which is why as a communicator I really have to be everywhere. And then there's another trend coming in here. There's new work, hybrid setup, but also new generations, younger people. All of that adds up to so many different ways of working and also ways of consuming content. Right? Then there's there's the trend of videos, TikTok, younger generations being used to consume content in 50-second videos, etc., versus the good old text that I used to send out as an internal communicator, the press release kind of style. So multitude of different transformations happening here, causing internal communications to be more flexible and being able to use and preach not only on different channels, but also with different styles of content. So that adds up a lot. And like I said, this is what we think employees have to be reached where they are. If I want to bring my communications across, then I have to be where they are. And what you can do to solve this is use a platform that caters for that approach, and that approach gives me the possibility to first of all pull content in that already exists. So most companies have a web presence, have social presence, and then do create either static or dynamic content in a place. And then, and this is where the multi-channel approach comes into play, they then need a solution where they can push it out not only to one channel, but to multiple channels directly, right? So I do not have to create content 3 times to push it out to 3 channels. I only create it once, or I even just pull it in, and then I directly distribute it out to multiple channels. And yeah, you could now say, well, this is not rocket science. No, it's definitely not, Mr. President. Whereas I would say having such a solution in place and having such an approach would already bring many organizations leap forwards. And it's definitely an important step that so many companies still have to do. But yes, once this is in place, it's not rocket science, that's for sure, but it's definitely important to have that. Now, if a company has that in place, the question that most communicators still have, though, is how can I, after having implemented that, measure whether this is also working? How can I make sure that this is an approach that fits, and how can I measure the success of my communications? Well, the reality is, even though those clients that we, for example, work with for quite some time, they say, your tool works perfect, we reach employees where they are, we do receive good feedback, but we do not have time to measure success. We do not have time to look at your analytics. We do not have time to analyze the data and continuously improve our communication, just because we are drowned with work. We do not have time because next to running internal comms, we are also responsible for external comms. We have to do press releases. Then there's also always something super important that our CEO asks us to do as communicators. So we just don't have time to do this. Now, and this is where we think this is where AI comes into play. AI is here to save time massively, especially with content creation in channel comms, because it is gonna help me that I never have to start on a blank sheet of paper anymore, and hopefully then I can use that time to finally start measuring success, for example, or to do more strategic things, etc. So, and I like promised, I don't want to only show you some slides, but also now very tangibly how that could look like, how it could save time using AI in content creation. So if I jump right into our place within the Haiilo platform where you would create content, this is how the interface would look like. But this is not me promoting Haiilo here. This is like any other intranet employee comms editor could look like as well. All pretty similar. You might be familiar to those kind of rich text editor kind of style to create content, right? So what I would do now is type in the title, and I would start creating on a blank sheet of paper, start creating something. So the problem is that what takes most of the time is I have to do me having to do my research, me having to collect all the information that I need to create the content to then be able to distribute it out. Now, what I can do with the integration of AI is, let's say I want to write an internal news on our new sustainability strategy and how my company is implementing the way to zero carbon emissions. Probably, let's say I work for a retail company. First of all, I wanted to start with an intro paragraph on why retail companies, or why it is important to have a sustainability strategy for retail companies. I could now go to Google and look it up and found cool stats, etc., but I could also, right from here, ask AI to exactly create that piece of content. So what I can do is I can mark that paragraph here. I can now use a prompt, send this to ChatGPT and say, write that paragraph for me. What the integration is not doing is very simple, using the API calls, sending that prompt to ChatGPT and then bringing the content right back to me without me having to leave my editor here, right? So it directly brings that back to me. I can now read through it, etc. And I think, well, that's probably a bit too long for an intro paragraph. So I can use a multitude of different prompts now here to change that, right? So for example, to make it shorter, or for example, to say, I want this to be a very friendly and good and nicely sounding intro paragraph. So I can also change the tonality, etc., right? I can now, for example, whilst this is doing that, I can ask for statistics. So all sorts of things that I could now use to bring in more content and then start building that straight from here. And obviously, yes, super important, of course, to read through it, adapt it, adjust it, make it my own, and make sure that it's not telling any nonsense. But yeah, main message here, I, as a communicator, never have to start on a blank sheet of paper anymore. And this is going to save me time massively in the process of content creation. Because yeah, it takes friction out of the entire process. So yeah, pretty much this is what you can do. Obviously, yeah, we could go now into super much detail, but I guess you get how it would work and all the other possible use cases that I could now do with this nice little AI integration here. And yeah, finally, you can also see, back to my earlier point, I can now, on this piece of content that I've created with the help of AI, I can choose my perfect target audience for that. So who do I want to send this piece of content to? And also I can then select the communication channels, right? So this is probably something that is not only relevant for our internet platform, but I also want people to be reached via email and via Teams, because this is super important that everybody knows about the new sustainability strategy. So I can, on top, select those communication channels. Right, so hopefully this is then now saving me loads of time. And as an internal communicator, I can now start this save time to finally measure my success. And measuring success is super important because of those transformative times we're in, and because of those new requirements in terms of flexibility, multiple channels, multiple generations that I have to reach with my internal content. Which is why I can not only rely on quantitative data, right? Obviously, yes, I can look into analytics. I can check how many clicks, how many likes, how many comments did I get on my internal content. But this is only going to give me a certain amount of insights. So another statement that I'd like to make today is internal communications also has to gather qualitative insights to continuously make the communications more effective. So that means, let me skip that one here. I can, yes, of course, go into overall engagement rates, find my best performing channels and identify trending topics, etc., etc. But it's also super important that I, for example, use elements like pulse surveys to gain qualitative feedback on my communications, right? So I really understand how is my content that I've created with the help of AI being perceived. Are my employees happy with it? Do they get the message behind it, right? Because not only because they've clicked it and they've liked it doesn't mean that they've necessarily understood our new sustainability strategy, right? To stick with that example. So yeah, that's a kind of second message that I want to send out, that we're trying to cater for and advocate for in the market. First of all, yes, you have to save time and you can leverage AI for that massively. And then finally, you should use that time to be a bit more strategic and gather not only quantitative, but also qualitative insights to continuously improve your communications and also measure potentially the business impact that you have with your communications.
Cool, Kevin. This is what you had for us, right?
Yes, exactly.
And then we'll just jump into the Q&A. I know that there was some background noise where you were sitting. I hope everybody was more or less able to have a reasonable learning experience. Adam from Copenhagen already posted in the chat if you can combine prompts with the tone of voice for the companies.
I didn't get the question.
Adam, do you want to briefly elaborate?
Yeah, sure. I was just thinking, by the way, super interesting, very elegantly implemented. I was just thinking whether you had thought about the idea of adding company's tone of voice, so tailoring company's tone of voice to be subjected to formulated as a prompt, so that you'd be able to send that along with the prompt in order to align a text with the company tone of voice.
Got it. Yeah, it's definitely something we're thinking about. So what I just showed to you right now is our first iteration, because we already think that it massively helps with the process of content creation. But yes, of course, in an ideal world, you'll be able to directly also have your tone of voice as an output of your prompt. At the moment, nothing we could provide, but definitely something that out of an early feedback from our clients was requested already. Yeah, so very, very relevant and valid point.
As you know, also, Kevin, PowerPoint is also a popular way of communicating, and particularly internally. Erica asked if it can also create PowerPoint slides.
Well, ChatGPT definitely can. I just did it last week, interestingly, with one of our engineers. It's super easy to use OpenAI and have it creating PowerPoint slides. It's not something that we will build into our studio, but yeah, the ChatGPT definitely can. Yes.
Cool.
You would probably rather create those PowerPoint slides and then attach it to a piece of content that you create or distribute via our platform to your employees.
All right, and then there is something about social media posts on a topic. Erica, do you want to jump in and just briefly elaborate?
Sure. So I was thinking about, Twitter and LinkedIn. So, Twitter, you have a character limitation. LinkedIn, you usually want a photo. Can it do that?
General, are you specifically asking in terms of the AI integration or the multi-channel aspect of it, of this whole studio?
I'm not really sure. I'm not that familiar. It looks like you have a software that you're offering, so I'm really not up to speed on it.
Yeah, sure. So if I got the question right, what you can do with the platform is, first of all, you can pull content in that you, for example, already have on your LinkedIn profiles, just for your employees to make it easier to consume that content directly from your employee comms platform. That's use case number one. What you can also do, you can create a piece of content and make that shareable by your employees to their personal LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, to use them as ambassadors. So that's something that some of our clients are doing super successfully. So let's think of, you have an open position. What can you do? You can publish that with your company LinkedIn post, LinkedIn account. That's going to have a certain reach, but you can also ask all of your employees, let's say you have 5,000 employees, to share that specific open position with their personal LinkedIn account. That's going to multiply the potential reach of that post massively. And this is something that we do provide, right? So you can make specific content shareable for your employees right off the platform.
Thank you. And then there was a couple of questions. I think it's 4 or 5 times now in the chat that's been asked about pricing.
So the AI integration specifically is included in our pricing. So we do not price extra for the integration. the way it works is basically we ask our client to create their own OpenAI account, and then you would basically just add your ID into the platform, and then you'll be able to use the integration right away. So the transaction costs lie with the clients. So I think at the moment you have to pay 0.0004 cents per prompt. I think something in that ballpark. So yeah, this is how we implement it. But on our side, it's nothing that we charge extra for, etc.
Then Adam raises the question of legal implications. Do you want to just add perhaps a little bit more flavor to the question, Adam?
Yeah, I was just thinking. So you're offering us to your customers the potential to just generate text, right? So I know that there are all sorts of boundaries with set up within ChatGPT as to what does it actually deliver of content. However, this is something where the user base is not really yet acquainted with this type of content production, and they are the ones being liable for the content that they put in front of their end users at the end. So are you considering any guidance, or have you screened this area for legal implications?
I think for what I know, it's a legal gray zone still. But obviously, yes, we do educate our clients if they decide to use it, that they should thoroughly test the content and not just blindly rely on it. But yeah, it's only something that we tackle from an educational perspective at the moment, just because I don't think that there's any common knowledge on the legal things. But yes, I know there's things going on, but from what we know, it's a gray zone still.
And Dennis from Switzerland asks, if ChatGPT goes down, I guess your service goes down as well?
Oh yeah, I mean obviously not the entire Haiilo platform, but that specific AI integration definitely will, of course. And yes, it's completely volatile, right? So OpenAI at the moment. So for example, in Europe, if you use it in the mornings, then it's super stable. If you start using it in the afternoon, when the US wakes up, then it might become a bit unreliable. So yeah, that's something that we have to deal with as well, and our clients have to deal with that as well.
Cool. I think I was able to field most of the questions in the chat. Any additional questions, comments, reflections? Feel free to write them or raise your hand. If I look at the initial promise that you gave, Kevin, we had a slide. We had 3 bullets, right? So in the invitation for the call, there was how to implement a multi-channel communications strategy. I think that was that one slide that I think I can imagine when you go to London or elsewhere that you spend hours and hours on that one slide. I'll make sure to include that in the post. Then the second bullet was content creation at scale. You showed that specifically with a line and a half, make it longer, and out came whatever, 20, 15 lines. Make it funnier, make it summarized. And then the third one, I think, was all around the analytics reporting. So how communicators can address that problem of not having time to measure success. Any bonus things at the end, Kevin? Anything additionally you have for us?
No, hopefully I was able to cover off these three points comprehensively in the time that we had so far. But yeah, really just want to emphasize that I really think that it's important for everyone that handles either communications or digital workplace whatsoever. It's super important to carve out some time to look at data and start understanding how communications is performing, how my digital workplace is performing, and then start acting upon it just to continuously improve what I do, how I communicate with my employees, which channels do I use. And this is not something I can get fully out of quantitative. So I'd advise any company to start using pulse survey elements as well to get qualitative feedback from employees, ask employees how happy they are, what they think we could improve, etc., etc. So that's something that I saw benefiting companies massively once they start to get together those qualitative insights as well.
Very good. I must admit that I've been very impressed also, like Ken said in the opening, going to Toronto or Hamburg or elsewhere, that, you know, it may seem like just a cool demo that you showed 5 or 10 minutes ago, but the adoption in the enterprise, you know, not unlike in the past where, okay, cool things was something we looked at and, that's nice, but it's not going to happen. It seems to me like the adoption here is really indeed happening, and it's quite impressive to see how, like Adam said, how slick or, you know, easy it seemed like to use from inside the platform. I think that's impressive.
Yeah, definitely appreciate the feedback. And like I said, it's just the first iteration. So there's so many more potential use cases that we are currently thinking of. And also, I mean, to be very honest, building this it's not something that we needed months for, right? So it's an open API. It's a simple API call that we've implemented. So yeah, it's no rocket science, and I expect basically any software provider to build that into their platforms wherever it makes sense, where suitable.
And I guess at some point you'll do the interface in German too, and all the other languages.
Yeah, that's already available. So yes, you can. Just saw that comment as well. Yes, you can do it in German, all sorts of other languages that the platform supports. But yes, from a data set, I think at the moment ChatGPT is most reliable with English, just because the amount of data that it has available in English is the most rich data set.
Thank you for combining slides, live demo, and as a bonus, finishing on time. I know everybody always appreciates that. Thank you, Kevin, for finding the time to prepare this for us and sharing with the community. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone, and sorry for the background noise. Have a very good day.
We'll stay in touch.